have Pfizer vaccine contract shows Ottawa accepted unknown efficacy of COVID vaccines. This is from an Epic Times article, and within this article, it says that the contract says the purchaser acknowledged the efficacy and adverse effects of the vaccine were not currently known. And I quote, the federal government accepted the unknown long-term safety and efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines when it signed a contract with Pfizer for millions of doses, according to a recent released copy of the document. Purchasers further acknowledges that the long-term effects and efficacy of the vaccines are not currently known and that there may be adverse effects of the vaccine that are currently not known, reads a copy of the statement on October 26, 2020 within the contract with Pfizer, which was obtained by the Canadian Independent via an access to information request. In an email with the Epic Times, Health Canada said that Public Services and Procurement Canada confirmed that the document is indeed a redacted copy of the contract between Canada and Pfizer. By signing the agreement, Ottawa also acknowledged the vaccine and materials related to it were rapidly developed due to emergency circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it would continue to be studied by Pfizer after the vaccines were delivered. This is pretty crazy, but what do you think about this, Jonathan?
I mean, this is so insane that, like, I feel like all I need to do is repeat it in a different way, so you can, it's like, it's that bad. I'm like,
yeah.
So our government, we know that we give pharmaceutical companies blanket coverage over vaccines. They're already not in any trouble. But at least before now, they had to prove efficacy. A vaccine used to have to work. It used to have to stop you from spreading and stop you from getting it. That was kind of the loose definition. Well, it used to be firm. Now it's pretty loose of what a vaccine was. And, you know, since the 80s, safety was never really their concern. They don't do any safety studies. It doesn't really matter. So that's obviously, are you wearing that coffee? Did you just pour that on yourself?
Yeah, I thought I did, but I missed completely.
Good, no, that's good. So, you know, the issue you have is now we've gotten to a point where we're not even worried about efficacy. We just signed contracts with these people that fast-tracked a vaccine into the market, and we bought hundreds of millions of doses. After, what was it, 7-8 months? They had to. It was October 20th. Yeah,
October 20th.
That was like 6-7 months. They signed this contract with these people, being like, we don't know how it works, we don't know if it works, we don't know if it's safe. And in that contract too, if I remember correctly, it said you can't tell anybody. you can't talk to this about this to anyone. You can't disclose any of this to your MPs, so you can't even tell people in the political sphere. That's how tight-lipped they wanted people on this. So like you look, and you have to sign for hundreds of millions of doses. And then the pricing they had was wrong too. They originally said it was like $19 and change. Apparently it was closer to $30, which is 50% more per dose. And if I remember correctly, what I think we have sitting in storage in Canada that we can't give away and no one will take and nobody wants, which is good to see, is about 32.5 million doses. So that's about $1 billion worth of product we're just going to burn. How is nobody accountable for this? First of all, how are we signing contracts with these companies when they don't have to guarantee safety or efficacy of the product at all? Not to mention how bad it is for people. Forget it's safe. Like it's man.
Let's just imagine it works.
Yeah,
like just hypothetically.
But it doesn't. And they admittedly said we don't even know if it works. But you're signing the line anyway. This has gotten to a point. This is a big red flag, and I think more people need to pay attention to this. This isn't just another one of those, oh, COVID, blah, blah, blah. This cannot happen. Our government signed these agreements. They were signed all over the world, basically saying, you're signing this without even knowing if it's efficacious whatsoever. That is fucking insane. That is beyond. That just tells you now that pharma runs the world. That's what that means. That's insane to me. How much money is changing hands? How much money is going to these governments and these people that are in power that have been elected to keep us safe and do the right thing? Because there's no way that this happened without tens of millions of dollars going to these people. Because they know when they sign that thing, they know that there are adverse events from vaccines. That's a reality. Everyone knows that. I don't care if people want to deny it. It's a fact, right? And we know there's a corollary effect with a lot of these young kids and the volume of vaccines they're now taking in childhood. It's very easy information to find. So you know this data exists. And now they want you to sign this thing here saying we don't know if it's safe, we don't know if it works, and your whole country's got to take several of these doses. and you can't tell a single soul about what's in this contract. That is so crooked. Dude.
It's really criminal.
This signals such a massive amount of corruption in the Western world right now. This cannot be let go. This is one of those things that I'm actually going to take and I'm going to go do an off the cuff on it. Which are not off the cuff anymore, by the way, obviously. So I'm going to have to do more research on this, and I have to lay this out for people. I have to put some more information down. This is so best. I do not want to talk about COVID anymore. This is such a red flag. If we allow our government to continue signing these things and continue accepting these things that are not helping anybody, only making it worse, only harming people. Dude, I don't care. Like, people might say this sounds like a tinfoil hat thing. Our government just accepted a bioweapon from a pharmaceutical company that we paid for and then gave them blanket legal coverage. What the fuck? What are we doing?
No, it's pretty wild. And the craziest part is like, I'm pretty sure there's tons of people who are watching at the moment and listening who have been having these discussions with family members, and they were calling them crazy. Where did you see these reports? And it's not true. And that they like, there was a lot of people that were ride or die.
100%. People were getting Pfizer tattoos.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? You know, just the other day around this block here, I literally saw someone with a Pfizer what those varsity jacket?
No, dude.
Yo, he had dude. We had a whole Pfizer influencer.
That is so 2021, bro. Like, what are you doing?
I'm not gonna lie, the jacket did look
good.
Don't
give me that. Don't give me that. Don't give me that. Don't give me that. Don't give me that.
But it's crazy how many people. I remember I even had some of my friends going around, like, they were making like influencer style videos of them going and getting their shots at a strip club. like, you know, like they had a clinic at a strip club.
That's so
and
tight.
it was when I saw that, I was like, what is going on here? Like, it was the wildest thing I seen. But like, it just goes to show you that, like, it's crazy. The information is always there present. It's just about when does it hit the news cycle,
right,
and when does it become prevalent to people, because this has been like common knowledge, but it was so common knowledge that they wanted it to keep it so secret that's when the censors are out. Like, they would say, this is disinformation. That's disinformation.
You couldn't use the word vaccine.
You couldn't even. It was scary. It got to the point where I could even say, now we can say COVID-19, but I was calling it the beer bug back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's how crazy it was. Like, you couldn't mention anything, but just seeing that, like, everything that was being reported back then is 100% true. And, you know, families were ruined over this. Families, friendships. Of
course.
Ruined over this, all for this to be right. And now you're having people dying over this. Yeah. Because think about it. Like, yes, it was sad that people were passing away due to COVID.
Sure.
However, especially as a young person myself, I'm only 27, right? At the time I was 24. So it's just like, why would I, as a young person, risk these adverse effects for something I know I'm likely to survive for? And people are being kicked out of school for it. I had friends getting kicked off of varsity teams for it. They couldn't play sports, everything like that. And now everybody's sitting with egg on their face.
Well, what's worse is they didn't even want to tell you that there were adverse effects. You still have something happen today, and the first thing they go is, it wasn't the vaccine. You're going, look, the guy died yesterday. It was a heart problem. It's like, it wasn't the vaccine. You guys are crazy. It's like, do you know that it wasn't? I don't know that it was, but I can suggest that it might have been.
It might,
because the guy was in his 30s and he was running a marathon.
Yeah.
So maybe it was, and you're just like, no, it wasn't. You're crazy. Hey guys, just face the facts that it's a reality. It is an admitted adverse event at this time.
Yeah.
And what's frustrating for me too is you see the same thing with pregnant women. They're like, it's perfectly safe. You need to get it. They didn't. The tests that they did with pregnant women, the results are horrific. There was so many, dude. It is so bad for women that are pregnant, and they just hid all of it. Basically, the big problem that you have here is that it ends up in like your reproductive organs.
Wow,
dude. If you look at the data on what it did to women that were pregnant, and the number of the number of just basically abortions that ended up happening. You know, they were vaccine related abortions essentially. You know, it's pretty wild, and they got to do all these things under this guise of this contract that said, we don't even know what it does. We don't know if it's safe. We don't know if it works. So it's like, at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, you can't blame the vaccine companies, but I think we can blame the government for this one. And I think that we should.
And the funny part is like, I think there was a fund I think Canada set apart. I think it was like some super small fund. It was like 30 or 40, $50 million, where if you had an adverse effect, then maybe you could get paid out. Not even if you did. So, because I think a lot of these people who suffered adverse events, like, they're still not being paid out. I think a lot of them aren't, but I will double check on that. But I can't remember what the exact total number of the fund was, but they had a fund for it.
It was insignificant. You're correct.
It was
not
very
big.
small compared to the type of effects that could happen. But I think the one thing that just really gets me worried about like that entire situation is just the effects on the youth. Like there was a lot of high schoolers that were forced to get this. Like, imagine what this is going to do to their life when they turn 30, when they turn 40, stuff like that. And we're already starting to see new commercials. They're coming out and making commercials of like, of kids having heart attacks and saying, oh, this is how you can prevent, this is how you can prepare from now. And they're trying to inform, like, remember how we used to have like those anti-bullying commercials?
Yeah.
Like back in the day. Now it's like heart attack care commercials, and they're putting them on like TV. Like I saw it on YTV the other day.
That's
so
wild.
It's just like
it's wild that you watch YTV.
They're already mentally preparing kids, seeing like, oh yeah, it's normal if kids get heart attacks and stuff like that.
You know what? There are so many instances of this happening, and it seems like obviously I'm reading the news every day, right? And the number of people that are dying that are way too young to be dying, and a lot of them are heart related, stroke related, stuff like that. Like obviously not all of them are correlated. But like a reasonable amount, I would suggest are. And no one will pay any attention to it. They refuse to look into it, and they still continue to call you crazy. But shit like this exists right in front of their face, and they still deny it. They still look at it and go, nope, you're nuts. That's. It's because they committed to doing it, and I understand people, they become associated with their opinions, and they identify with it. And I understand I understand on the micro level. But at the macro level, there should be enough people to say, hey, maybe we were wrong. And when you see stuff like this is such a red flag. This is such a red flag to say, yeah, you need to look into this, and this doesn't make any sense. And look, I don't need anybody being like, oh yeah, Jonathan, you were right, good for you, blah, blah, blah. I don't need any of that. I don't need vindication. I don't give a fuck. My whole goal was to stop the government and to try to help people. So now the best way I can do that now is for people to pay attention to things like this and to make sure we do something to stop it from happening again.
I think just, bringing more awareness to it is definitely a thing. Getting these conversations started, because people need to have these internally, you know what I mean? And I think with more people talking about it, it becomes less taboo at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing is I almost think it's less about it being taboo, because I think people are comfortable saying that you and I are idiots. I think they're like, no, those guys are crazy. I think the problem is actually coming to terms with reality. That's what it is. It's not about it being taboo. It's about actually questioning what you think to be true. And I think what the world has sort of learned at scale, for those paying attention over the last few years, is that we need to ask those questions about pretty much everything. Yeah. And I think we just need to get more people on that page. And when you see things like this, it's a great opportunity to help bridge people over. To be like, hey, look, I know this is the way you saw things. I'm going to speak to my parents about this. My parents let me do my thing, but they saw it a different way than me. They did. They did not agree with my decision and what I was saying and how I felt. Now, I know so much about it because I was doing so much research and doing these videos that I was very, very hard to argue with. In fact, don't waste your time. On that topic, really, I would pretty much crush you because I was so heavily invested in the research and the data. But, we maintained a good relationship, even though there was a little bit of friction. But this is one of those things where I would go to them and say, hey, look, I want you to see this. I want you to look at this, even though I know you're on this side of things, and maybe you'll continue to get vaccines, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But I want you to identify how wrong this is, and that these are the people that you trusted to do the right thing for you, because they totally fucked you.
If you like this video, make sure you check out this one right here. And if you want to watch the full podcast, make sure you check this out here.